welcome.
Lindsay,
Yeah. Come back.
Hello.
Be careful.
This is insane, you guys. This is like way bigger than previous years. Like way bigger.
It all these things like take a little bit of time to, to like become a habit, right? And like even when we do any sort of social or anything, it's like the first year, people aren't sure, they're not sure who to invite, how to do it. And it's some of the repetition that allows us to grow. And so, a special shout out here to Philip Eubank and John, who really led the charge on all this. So let's dive in. So you were here with us just a year ago, almost to the day. And you made this comment that we went from 109,000 being fed a month, 109,000 being fed a month in southern Louisiana in 23 parishes, right?
Yeah, households.
To 140 in 2 months. And that was the growth trajectory back then. Where are we at now?
Really, really high. Really high. Yeah. So I've been waiting to see the newest numbers for the month of November. In October, we were just shy of 150,000 households during that month. And so I'm really anxious to see how that increased in November. As y'all recall, there was quite a bit of panic, quite a bit of back and forth and upside down, and a lot of unknowns that we were navigating, and a lot of holding space. I think what really resonated with me this past year is the panic that our community was facing. The worry, the sleepless nights, just a lot of concern around how, not just for our neighbors who found themselves facing a very uncertain future, but also my team, our pantry leaders, because we were like, we don't have enough food to give everyone. And so we were providing materials of like, how do you manage lines? How do you turn people away? How do you like emotionally hold space for someone who is like devastated if you run out of food? How do you hold that space for them? But also like me as a leader, how do I recognize that you're the ones, pantry leaders, that are gonna have to do that emotional labor? That was a really hard place to be in these past few weeks.
So I think most of us are tracking. Of course, there's a government shutdown, and there was effect to SNAP benefits, but lay out to us that aren't fully in it what the state did, what the federal did. Was there impact or just confusion?
There was both impact and confusion.
Okay.
So, and all of this is really unprecedented, right? So SNAP is an entitlement program, which means that people who receive SNAP are entitled to those dollars. They should receive it regardless of whether there's like appropriated money for it. Like that is that's never happened in the history of our government before. So there was a lot of trying to navigate this space, a lot of back and forth with the Trump administration being like, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it. So that was very confusing. I'm really grateful, honestly, for our state's leadership. Because there were very few states in the country that responded the way that ours did, and there were no states in the South. So our governor moved very swiftly because the legislature was already in special session of putting some bills forward saying that we will dip into our own monies to support the most needy families in our state. And so the way that SNAP works is seniors and adults with disabilities receive benefits first. They're the first folks that get rolled out their benefits in the month, and then households with children slowly get their benefits. And so, and that makes up 70% of SNAP recipients in our state are either households with children, seniors, or adults with disabilities. And our state said, we're going to make some sort of payment for them. We're going to do 25% increments, so that at least they get something. So that was really huge. And then the state also did something really special, and they gave the food bank some additional money to help address the needs. And so we got some additional funds to buy food to help support the needs we were seeing, because we don't have we don't have a ton of food to be able to do that.
And I think the governor in the last few days has said, really in total, this is a net increase for those that are on SNAP of like 25% or some. Is that correct?
So so that basically they're not going to do the administrative labor of like readjusting benefits. Yep. They're just going to be like, here's you just bonus, happy holidays.
Okay.
Which is beautiful and honestly a little surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, the state of everything. You've actually been quite a policy advocate, and I think I remember you saying, this is cute. Food drives are cute, but what we really need is public policy that really supports this, and we have a system to do that. Has there been changes since we've seen you last in the national or state system that has been good or bad?
Bad.
Okay.
It's been bad.
Okay.
It's been bad, Cody.
Okay.
No, I spend a lot of my spring in meetings with our congressional delegation, being like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. This is why this is going to be upsetting. To no avail, right? Because it ended up that's essentially the big, beautiful bill has changed the landscape for SNAP for a lot of recipients. So it's also changed the landscape for Medicare and Medicaid. So now with Medicaid, there's work requirements that people have to meet. They adjusted the ages for SNAP. I know I'm getting into like a lot of specifics here.
No. I think that's completely appropriate because we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So the specifics for SNAP now, you have to show that you are working if they decrease the age. So you have to work now if you are older than 54, and it used to be the age of 60. So now, which is challenging because as we get older, we know we might have illness or we might, want to retire a little bit earlier or be unable to work. And so that changes the landscape. And then the definition of a dependent changed as well. So a dependent is a child, right, typically. Under the age of 18 was the policy before, and now it's under the age of 14. So if you have a child between 14 and 18, you have to show that you are working to receive those benefits, which again, they're still a child, whether they're 15 or 16.
Like the child has to work, the parents need to be working.
The parents have to be working
in order for the child to get food between 14 and 18.
Yeah, so it has all changed. That piece of it has changed. Work requirements is changing things. And there are a lot of people now that these new policies have gone into effect starting November 1st who will be permanently removed from the rolls. There are also talks of that they want everyone to reapply, and that's the way that needs-based programs work is that typically you have a certification period, and that can be either a rolling period, so like an annualized 1 date after your, 1 year after your original certification date, or it can be a static date. So like for our USDA commodities, we recertify everyone in June. And so now they're saying that, we're just gonna do this now, even regardless of when you were certified last.
Okay.
Which is also going to be a huge administrative burden for everyone.
So that's the good, big federal view. Now,
I don't know that it actually has. I know it's something that they've talked about, that the USDA, Secretary Rollins, has really wanted to put forth. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. They're also changing the cost share with the state too, and so that the way that this works in our state, well, in all states, is that the federal government pays 50% of the administrative cost for SNAP, not the benefits, the administrative cost. And then the state pays the other 50%. With a big, beautiful bill now, they're saying that states need to pay 50% of the benefits. And that is huge. And then if your error rate is really high, you might have to pay more of a cost share, and it's just penalizing states for not having it together, but ultimately it's penalizing poor states who don't have enough state funding to cover the admin that's needed to have good error rates or lower error rates. So anyway, it's a whole bunch of fun.
Well, let's continue on the fun. there's been a shakeup with y'all's relationship with the Archdiocese.
Oh man, you're gonna ask me that question.
Yeah, what has that done to your budget and to how you all distribute into the parishes? What effect has that had?
Yeah, so no effect to the budget, thankfully. No effect to our services, thankfully. But this has been the worst year professionally for me on record. It's just been very tumultuous. Natalie J. Rowe was my mentor. There was a pretty robust grieving period after she was fired. We got a new regime, and here I am having to teach these new guys food banking, which has been super fun for me. But I think as far as the bankruptcy settlement, what we have been told is that the amount that Second Harvest would have been asked to contribute has been covered by an anonymous donor, and that we have to contribute something to receive the protection of the bankruptcy settlement. Otherwise, future claimants can come to the Archdiocese or any apostolate to sue for additional damages. So we have to contribute something to the settlement, and our contribution has been covered by an anonymous donor, which is very exciting because there was a tremendous fallout in the spring. I shouldn't say there was no impact on our budget, because there was a tremendous fallout in the spring for donors who felt like they had lost trust. Not necessarily in Second Harvest, but in that Second Harvest was separate and apart from the Archdiocese. And so that was very challenging for us all to navigate. We had donors who were withdrawing gifts. We had lots of donors telling us they're not going to make gifts anymore. We had our largest donor freeze their gift. It was $1 million gift. They froze it for a while. They thankfully have unfrozen it. So there was a lot for us to figure out.
On top of your normal, on top of your normal busy schedule.
Yeah.
What does that forecast look like in the next year? I mean, does this anonymous donor come back? Do we know?
I mean, to donate to the food bank? Mm-hmm. I don't even know who they are, but bless them.
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought the chief impact officer would know who they are.
I don't know. I don't even think our CEO knows who they are. It's very, this whole thing has been sort of shrouded in mystery, but we've been told that we don't necessarily need to know. Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You've spent a lot of time talking about the myths of SNAP and I would say the stereotype of the hungry. Mm-hmm. What does that picture look like? I mean, who is that person? Because I feel like the answer kind of surprises us each year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on where you are, but we all know that cost of living is very, very high where we live, particularly in southeastern Louisiana, and that groceries are expensive. And so, it's anyone from a senior who is retired, living on fixed income. They worked in primarily a cash industry, and so they have very little Social Security to speak of. They're, much older, so they're really unable to work, and they're paying their housing bills and their medicine, and food is third on their list of importance. It's I'm thinking of a family on the West Bank, and the husband had lost his job and was looking for a new job, and the wife had lost her job recently and was looking for a new job. So they were without an income for a while, and they had 3 children. So needing to feed those kiddos. So most of our clients need supplemental assistance for about 3 months. And so it's really just to get people, we have that data, just to get people through a rough patch. Of course, there are plenty of folks who live in cyclical chronic poverty, and there are a lot of reasons why that exists. We don't have the time to go into all that, but a lot of reasons why that exists. But for the most part, most people just need a little boost during a time of great need because something has happened. So a house fire, or someone has lost their job, or someone just got diagnosed with an illness, or someone was injured on the job, or what have you.
When was the first time, like as a young person or girl, that you saw poverty up close? What's your earliest memory of getting involved in this business?
In like nonprofit work, I probably was in high school, maybe. But my dad grew up very, very poor. They lived on a farm in the hill country of Texas, and he lived in basically a farmhouse with 9 brothers and sisters. They did not have indoor plumbing. They used an outhouse. The girls slept in one room, the boys slept in another, and my grandparents slept in the living room. And my grandfather died when my dad was 13, and my grandmother did not have a high school education. And so, like, just seeing firsthand the way that my father was raised and the support that they often received from community, I feel like that just sort of fostered a sense of, like, we've got to help one another kind of thing, because life be lifin', you know?
So,
yeah, you should.
Clearly a hell of a year for you,
yeah.
As you stated. I mean, how do you stay centered? How do you stick with it? Like, what motivates you to keep going?
Yeah. Well, I think that the work itself is really inspiring, right? So being able to wake up every day and feel like you're making a difference is really huge. To get like super deep on a very personal level, most of y'all know that John and I had a son who passed away a few years ago. And so I moved into this role right after I had come back from bereavement. And I felt at that time that this was a really great opportunity for me to channel my grief and this feeling that the world was a very dark place, and to feeling like I can build something with community that makes it much more light and like gives people hope and helps alleviate some worries that they feel. And so whenever I feel like really deep in like, oh gosh, this is just so hard, I feel like I try to recall that time and that feeling, and that's very helpful for me personally.
So what are some of those happier, more like hopeful moments that you've experienced in the warehouse or in distribution of food, that you've seen the impact like face to face?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of gratitude. I've seen just about everything at distributions before. Last year, I saw someone who was in a drive-through distribution, and their car had broken down. It was a very old vehicle, and the car had broken down. Their neighbor was also in the line at the distribution and got in front of them, hooked up a rope, and was literally pulling them through the distribution just so that they could make sure that they got food. And so like that right there is wonderful. Literally like holding space for people as they're crying, being like, my fridge is empty. This is such a blessing. Anything, even though they've waited in line for hours. And I'm usually, when that happens, I apologize. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Thank you for your patience. And always the response is, oh no, thank you. And I just feel like that people aren't going to stand in line for hours or use all their gas.
I've been in that food line. We did it after, I think, Ida in City Park, and I remember driving.
Culture Aid.
Yeah, and I remember driving there and seeing the line literally wrap around City Park. Yep. And we were told the line would take 3 hours. I mean, we were there for 3 hours. The line would take 3 hours for somebody to get through. And we were giving out just raw vegetables, basically. And I mean, it was like hours into this, and there was somebody that was waiting for something that, frankly, I don't know if I fully appreciate. Yeah. And I had to take completely for granted. I mean, I was just like, whoa! I was just all of a sudden, I don't know. Sometimes it hit me because it's like, if I'm not in and out of Conseco's in like 2 minutes, I'm like not a happy camper. You know? And so, you know, you see that somebody undoubtedly has like real food insecurity. How we know this is a Band-Aid.
I mean, this is beautiful.
No, but frankly, right? Like, let's just all be like real with ourselves. This is a Band-Aid, and it is a moment of Thanksgiving, and I think for us to the community. But what are other ways that we can support the systemic, you know, problem that we have in Southern Louisiana? Yeah,
I mean, voting. If you don't vote, please vote. I mean, I think getting involved in advocacy is really big. Our legislators, they listen to constituents. They have to, right? And they legitimately do. Even though I sat on all of those calls and talked to all of these people who are all wonderful people, regardless of political affiliation or belief, they're all lovely people who care about their community. They would always say, thank you so much for, you know, calling, because I would always be like, thank you for taking the time. Like, I really do appreciate it. You're just listening to me complain for the last 30 minutes. And they would always like, thank you so much for reaching out. Like, we want to hear from our constituents. That's something we want. And so paying attention to that is really big, and making those phone calls. I always tell John, when he starts to run his mouth and complain about what's happening in city and permits or whatever, and I'm like, have you told Leslie Harris how you feel?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to complain to me, you need to complain to her, because she's the one who can actually do something about it. I'm just here to listen or cut you off because I'm tired of listening.
But I think that's a good point, though, because, I mean, some of the problem is if you're not a constituent, you don't have the voice in that office. Like, Lindsay really can't go and talk to every person in the State House or in Congress, right? I remember I was an intern. I remember what's kind of your address? And we literally will throw it away. You're not our constituent. We're not going to even log this because we don't represent you. And so it's important to take what Lindsay puts out, and if you know, it means something to you that you talk to your elected representatives, because a person really, I think, doesn't have as big of a voice as a whole bunch of individuals, especially when we're talking about a flex from federal to state.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then things are happening at the state level all the time. You know, this past legislative session, there were changes to SNAP that happened at the state level, and so, you know, obviously people don't always have the time to read what might be happening and what they're voting on and all of that. But if you're ever interested, I always have a pulse on that. You're welcome to email me.
Yeah, and anything you have, we're happy to distribute out to everyone and support some of that.